Everybody, welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. Joining me for his bi-weekly segment is Zach Moore from Pigtown Sports. Zach, good afternoon. Glad to have you back on the show. How are you today?
Doing good, man. How you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. I'm so happy to have our actual official Bat Around music back. When we first started doing the show from a studio outside of a studio, but on Restream, you couldn't upload your own music, and I realized like a month ago, oh, we can now upload our own music, and so the Bat Around music is back, and it has that for me. It's a nostalgic feel, so I'm glad that we have it back. But yeah, man, glad to talk some baseball here with you today. Orioles well into spring training. They lose on a walk-off today, and it doesn't – these walk-off losses, these walk-off wins, they don't matter. The Orioles have been kind of like the cardiac kids in spring training with a couple of walk-off victories already. They were down 10-5 on Friday, and they scored 8 runs in the top of the ninth inning, and it was guys like Daz Cameron and Creed Willems who were getting those big hits for you. And it's like, well, that's cool. I mean, it doesn't matter. You're not really going to help this roster anytime soon. Certainly not this season unless something catastrophic happens. But winning's better than losing. We'll take that. Of course, the Orioles on the wrong end of it today, leading 4-3 going into the bottom of the ninth inning. But they load the bases and end up giving up a 2-run single with 2 outs to lose 5-4. But we saw some good today. We saw some bad today. Before we get into that, want to remind you, today's show is brought to you by spring training coverage from Pressbox. Tune into Pressbox's Facebook page tomorrow afternoon as Stan the Fan Charles and Luke Jackson take a spin around everything happening at Orioles spring training. Then stay tuned throughout the next 2 weeks as Stan and Luke will be live from Sarasota, keeping you updated and bringing in-depth conversation and analysis on Facebook, YouTube, and PressBoxOnline.com. Stan and Luke's spring training coverage is brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. So Dean Kramer, he came out of the bullpen in his first appearance in spring week or so ago. Gave up a couple of runs in 2 innings on 3 hits. Today looked much, much better. He goes 3 innings pitched, allows just the 1 hit, no runs, a couple of strikeouts in that performance. 2 games, 1 start now, and it looks like a Dean Kramer start. 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts for 5 strikeouts for Dean Kramer to this point. Did you get to catch any of that game? It was on MLB TV today.
Now, I was following it on the box score, but I don't have MLB TV, so I wasn't able to watch it any live. But it seemed like, I mean, from his comments after the game in his interview, he basically said that he's intentionally putting himself in stressful situations and throwing pitches that he probably wouldn't in the regular season, just to kind of like get into that moment, like more comfortable, throwing it rather, just in the middle of a game, be like, okay, this guy knows my fastball is coming, but I don't like throwing a curveball here. Like he's trying to like, make it hard on himself is what he's saying. So, I mean, if he's doing that and he's still locating, I mean, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, and this is back-to-back solid starts from the Orioles rotation. Cade Povich has looked every bit the part so far this spring. 5 innings pitched. He's allowed just 1 hit, no earned runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, including 6 in yesterday's outing against who'd they play yesterday? Pittsburgh.
Pirates.
In yesterday's outing against the Pirates from Sarasota. Definitely, you like what you see coming out from Povich. He's throwing, I think it was 25 pitches. 16 strikes for him yesterday. He's throwing strikes. He's locating. That was a big bugaboo for him last year. Is he wouldn't give a ton of hits because he's got to lose so much to have trouble because he the world. So through 2 starts. You'd like to see that he's only got the 1 walk 9 days into the Grapefruit League schedule. So how much of this can we really take stock in, and how much of it is still take it with a grain of salt?
I mean, look, he's hitting his spots and he's hiding the ball well. He's making it hard on the hitters to pick it up and square him up. I would put stock into that, honestly. It's not like, he's, kind of throwing the ball down the middle and guys are just, just missing it kind of thing. Like, No, he's living on the corners and he's locating his off speeds. And I mean, and Ryan Ripken did a good little show about how he's hiding the ball well. I mean, and you can really see it. He is hiding the ball really well. And I mean, that stuff's going to play. I mean, if you're hiding 93 is okay when you don't pick it up until, 50 feet away. I mean, that's a 10-foot advantage, and it's a big deal, and it does look faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's looking really good, and I saw that too. Where they're saying, he's throwing 93, but when he's hiding the baseball well, really, really difficult to pick up. And 93 can look like 96, 97 at that point. So, and especially a lefty throwing 93, that's good velocity for left-handed pitching. I mean, we're not talking Zach Britton throwing a 98-mile-an-hour sinker here, but it's still really solid velocity coming out of Cade Povich. And look, if this is how he looks, he's going to make the Orioles have to have a tough decision at the end of spring training, especially if somebody isn't stepping up coming out of that rotation. We're going to get into a little bit of the rotation performance and the bullpen performance here in a little bit. But before we get into that, we want to talk about something important going on with this team right now, and that's your entire left side of the infield is on the shelf at this point. Jordan Westburg played in the first game of spring training last Saturday, and he hasn't played since. He's got lower back discomfort. So they said that it's more of a precaution, I think, than anything else. But the back is nothing to mess around with. And then Gunnar Henderson the other day, he came out of the game after 1 inning and 1 at bat with lower right side discomfort. Have you seen any clarity out of as to what that is? Because my first speculation before I even heard what it was, he probably has some kind of oblique thing. He had an oblique issue last year, and obliques tend to pop up at this time during spring training. Do we have any clarity on what Gunnar's dealing with? And they did say they were just keeping him out this weekend. You expect to see him back the early part of this coming week?
Yeah, I mean, when I listened to Hyde after the game, and he said, look, if it was a regular season game, he would have stayed in. I wasn't concerned whatsoever anymore at that point. And they did say that he's feeling much better today. I think some people showed the video where they thought it might have happened where he had that leaping catch or something. And the first thing I thought too was probably the oblique. And then I thought just maybe it could have been the that little hip flexor. Like maybe just kind of landed kind of weird, because that'll kind of shoot up into your lower back just a little bit on that side. I know there's a labrum in the hip somewhere down in there too. I remember A-Rod had an issue with that. And if that stuff flares up, it just feels sore. I'm not too concerned. Same with Westburg. I think they said today he was hitting a little bit more, I think, live BP. So he should be returning to game action soon. This early in camp, I'm not that concerned. I mean, if a guy has to miss a week and a half, even 2, you still get 2 solid weeks to come back and get yourself ready for opening day. Obviously, you want the guys there every day getting reps, but if it happens early is obviously way better than right before we break. So, I mean, if it's going to happen, get it out of the way, I guess. And then hopefully we don't have to deal with it the rest of the year, because I do not want to deal with what we had to go through last year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, like you said, this time of year, I'd rather happen right now. You don't want to exacerbate things by having these guys play. There's no point in having them play through things like this, especially this early on in spring training. Get it right, get yourself healthy, and get out there ready for a 162-game season, because honestly, none of this matters till March 27th, which is crazy. It's 3.5 weeks away. We're 3.5 weeks away from opening day in Toronto, seeing our old friend Anthony Santander up there at the Rogers Center. And it feels like they just started spring training, and we're already only 3.5 weeks away from it. So it'll be nice to see those guys get back out there. Somebody else is going to be nice to see get back out there is Felix Bautista. According to Daniel Pitts, I did not see this, but apparently he is making his first appearance in a game tomorrow. It's been a long wait, as Daniel said. Here's the thing about this. He's been in his live BP, he's been throwing 94, 95. Now, I know that they're not letting him throw 100%, because they want it's a slow ramp up they were talking about. But you have said on this show a number of times, one of your concerns is what if Felix comes back throwing 93, 94 miles an hour? That fastball is going to get hit if he doesn't have the velocity. Are you concerned that Bautista's velocity in these live BP sessions has been sitting 94, 95, or is it more so, like we just said, he's probably throwing about 80, 85% right now?
I mean, if he's hitting 94, 95 and they're not letting him fully ramp it up, I kind of like that. That means that he'll be probably around 97, 98. I don't know if we ever see 100-mile-an-hour Batista again, at least on the consistency like we used to. I think maybe in like a big moment against Aaron Judge or something with 2 strikes, we might see 100, 101 here and there. I think, but more consistently, we're going to see that 97, 98 range. And if his splitter plays off of that, a couple of the videos that I saw him throwing them splitters to Kjerstad, I know Kjerstad swings and misses a good bit, but that splitter did look pretty nasty too. So if it's looking that good at 85% right now, I'm a little bit more comfortable than I was, let's say, a week and a half ago.
Yeah, because it leads to the idea that he's not just this guy that goes out there and just throws his arm out of the socket on every pitch, and that's all he's got is this electric 103-mile-an-hour fastball. I mean, that splitter has been nasty. The sinker's good. So he's a pitcher that can go out there, and he's got pitchability, as they say. And so the fact that he's getting big swings and misses out of guys right now, despite the fact that he's not throwing 103 miles an hour, it's something that you like to see, and kind of gives you confidence. And maybe he's not going to be the Mariano Rivera relief pitcher of the year in 2025, but if he can go back out there and he can close 90% of the games that he enters, and you're talking that's 45 out of 50, that's really all that you can ask for out of your closer. And when I say 45 out of 50, if he gives you 35 out of 40 saves, you're going to take that this year. That's better than anything you got from anybody at any point last year. And speaking of that, let's get into the bullpen. The starting rotation has been better than the bullpen, so we'll talk about the starting rotation second. The bullpen has been shaky, to say the least, and we get it. These guys are working on things right now. It's still early in the spring schedule, but there's also you don't want to worry about it, but when should you worry about it? Seranthony Dominguez, he's 2 games, 2 innings pitched, 5 hits. 3 of those 5 hits are home runs. 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, 4 earned runs allowed. Gregory Soto, 2 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 earned runs. Keegan Aiken, 2 innings pitched, a hit, an earned run. Kittredge, 2 hits, 2 walks, no earned runs in 1 inning. 2 hits, 1 walk. No earned runs in 1 inning pitched. Cano is allowed a run in 2 innings pitched. Brian Baker's looked really good. I'm not a Brian Baker fan. That guy scares the crap out of me every time he takes to the mound.
You just don't know what you're going to get.
Exactly. I'm old enough to remember when he came in Game 2 of the ALDS against the Rangers 2 years ago, walked the bases loaded for then Jacob Webb to come in and give up a grand slam. Cionel Perez, 2 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 hit batter, no walks, no Ks, no earned runs. Roansy Contreras has looked pretty good. 2 1/3 innings pitched, no walks, no Ks, no hits, no earned runs. Colin Selby has allowed 4 earned runs in 2/3 of an inning. So the guys that you're really the most concerned about, Perez, Cano, Soto, Dominguez, they've certainly been far from impenetrable coming out there. It's 8 games into spring training. They had the 1 rain out there, 8 games into the spring training schedule. So I don't want to say that I'm worried, but I would like to see them start consistently getting guys out, especially Dominguez, who is probably the closer in waiting if Bautista needs a blow or if he's ineffective. And the big issue with him last year was all the home runs he gave out, and he's given up 3 this spring. Your thoughts on how the bullpen has performed to this point?
Yeah. I don't want to raise the alarm just yet. I mean, when you look at Dominguez's numbers, they're not great. I mean, a 3.5 whip. I don't like to see that. And like you said, I mean, he's supposed to be a pretty important role in this bullpen right now, and you would like to see him get off to a hotter start. I'll play devil's advocate just a little bit. I mean, we'll go back to get it out of the way early if you're going to have it. I'm sure early on, a lot of these guys are kind of just on fastballs, probably in counts that they probably wouldn't in the regular season.
Sure.
But I'm still concerned. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, these are minor league hitters that are doing this to these guys. Most of the guys are rotating in and out around that 3rd, 4th inning, and that's when those guys are making their appearance. So younger guys are doing this, and look, that might play into them throwing just the fastballs. But to counter that too is, are they pitching to the starting catcher at that point? Is Maverick Hanley in the game and doesn't really know him too well, or has Cree Willems been in there, or Basayo? This is why these guys are up, though, to learn this kind of stuff in case of an injury and whatnot. So that's something that we would like really have to kind of dive into. And this early in spring, I don't think anybody cares to even do that. But now that some roster shuffling has happened, Hanley's been sent down. Basayo's still here. Selby's been sent down. So now that we kind of start to see a little bit more of a consistent, playing time with your starting catcher and backup catcher, then I'll start to get concerned, we'll say 2 appearances from now.
Sure.
But if they go out there and give up a hit or 2 in an inning, like, that's fine. The 3 home runs scares me with Dominguez. And I understand the ball completely just flies. Pop-ups fly out in Sarasota.
O'Neal Cruz's home run off of him yesterday was a routine pop-up that just kept going.
That was a foul ball, I thought.
Yeah.
that was kind of laughable. But those are what you have to deal with in Sarasota. So that's kind of why you don't want to look too far into some of these stats. On the hitting and the pitching side, I mean, but what Basayo did hitting that ball almost 500 feet, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's not an excuse me home run.
Yeah, that's a home run in any ballpark in any city in the world.
Do you think that would have hit the scoreboard at Camden Yards in the air?
Oh man, I mean,
that's a shot.
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no, and the only reason is because I was wondering, probably just under it. Like, do you remember when Chris Davis hit that home run and that walk-off home run against the A's, and it woke that dude up who was asleep in the bleachers? Yeah, I think that ball probably ends up right around that area. And look, do I think he hit the ball a country mile and just got all of it and then some? Absolutely. But I looked up a while back, like, how have no baseballs hit the warehouse in a game? How has this not happened? And when you think about the fact that Camden Yards is actually down, like basically off a cliff from where Utah Street is, and the way that the stadium is set up, there's a swirling wind that keeps, like, they did this whole scientific experiment with it. There's this swirling wind that keeps the ball from traveling that much further in Camden Yards. So I think that the wind probably keeps that ball from hitting the scoreboard. But if it's a dry Arizona desert day and for some reason you're playing outside, I think that probably hits the scoreboard at Camden Yards. Like,
that was impressive.
It was definitely an impressive shot off the bat of Basayo for sure. Oh, by the way, if you for some reason I only have MLB TV because my stepdad has it and he gave me his password. He's a big Phillies fan. Joe Racky, I think he's got you. He said no MLB TV. You say we can fix that. So I think you got your hook up there if you want to watch these Orioles games that aren't on MASN or MLB Network for that matter. But today's show brought to you by Help My Gambling Problem. If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. That's 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. Yeah, so for the bullpen, I would like to see them start, stringing together some solid outings. Somebody like Brian Baker being able to be successful right now. Again, these pitchers are far and away ahead of the hitters at this point in spring training. But that's going to flip on its head here in the coming days.
Probably days.
Yeah, probably days. And Brian Baker, look, do I want this guy to be a really good pitcher who can help the Orioles? Absolutely. Down the stretch in 2022, I think it was, or maybe it was 2023.
I think it was 3.
Yeah, he looked really good.
He was unhittable at some points.
Yeah. And then it was down the stretch in 2022. Then the start of 2023 looked really good. And then he just fell apart. Because I remember him being upset that he was on the playoff roster in 23. I want him to be that guy who can just get guys out. But far too often I see him as the guy who leaves a 97-mile-an-hour fastball at the letters and it just gets pounded 500 feet.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's with multiple dudes on base. If he comes into a clean inning, he's usually pretty good. If he comes in with guys on base, look out. I don't want to hate on the guy, but he hasn't been consistently good enough for me to trust him at any point when he comes into a ball game. Now, for the rotation that has to get to that bullpen, again, Cade Povich has looked really good. Dean Kramer looked really good today. We haven't seen much. Grayson Rodriguez. Rodriguez is pitching from a new arm slot. He said that he's changing up his delivery so that he can prevent himself from getting that lat teres issue again, where he was kind of more coming from like a 3/4 position, and now he's coming more over the top. So far, the results were good. Inning and 2/3, no hits. He did hit a batter, 2 strikeouts, no walks, no runs. So it looked good in his first outing. I am anxious to see and nervous to see what it's going to look like for Grayson Rodriguez because, look, he was a pop-up pick in the draft when he got drafted 11th overall in 2018. They said that he was like the most improved first-round pick. Really improved his stock going into that draft. And then his entire professional career, he's pitched the same way. And it's made him one of the top young pitchers in the game and was a top pitching prospect going into 2023. He changes that arm slot, starts with a new delivery. How do we anticipate that impacting his game? Is he still going to be Grayson Rodriguez? Does it make him better? Does it make him worse? Are there any nerves on your end, Zach, him switching up his delivery like that to stop himself from getting injured?
Not necessarily. I mean, more than likely, Drew French has probably identified something that he feels can help. And sometimes all it takes to really take off is one minor adjustment. Either putting a little bit more pressure on one of the seams when you're throwing a 2-seam or changing your arm slot. We've seen it. I've seen several articles from like the Pitch Profiler. So-and-so dropped their arm slot 2 inches, right? And then all of a sudden the ball started running a lot more. Like, so those are the kind of things that could really help Grayson. A lot of things change when you're used to it, especially when you hit the big league level, because when you get to a point, teams, they know everything about you.
Mm-hmm.
Technology is crazy nowadays. So to be able to change something up and then still have something else that you're used to go back to later on. Like, I mean, because if he's up here, and then all of a sudden he drops down to that 3/4 in the middle of an at-bat, that's the difference in maybe a line drive and a ground ball to Jordan Westburg at third base. Like, you pull something like that out of your back pocket, it's a big deal. But what I would want to focus on is the ball move a little bit more? Because I think you and I can both agree on that Grayson's a little flat at times. The 100 miles an hour played, and it played well. And I think to probably keep him healthy, we aren't going to see 100 miles an hour too much anymore. A consistent 97 from Grayson, 96 even, is probably fine with a little bit of run. And if they can get him, especially in a good arm slot, where the ball starts to run a little bit more, if he gets better, and he's shown already through 2 seasons that he's gotten better, he just can't stay healthy. So if he gets better and healthier, I think sky's the limit for that guy.
Yeah, I think that a lot of what they're banking on with the rotation this year hinges on Grayson Rodriguez taking that next step and being that ace. When we saw him come back from Norfolk to start the second half of the season, he pitched. It was against the Dodgers, I think, in Baltimore, and he blew them away. Like, he looked absolutely phenomenal. He's hit 99, 100 miles an hour with the fastball. He looked like a completely different guy, a guy who pitched to a 2.58 ERA his last 13 starts in 2023. And then last year, again, and I talk about this a lot. He made 20 starts for this ball club last year. 16 of those starts, he pitched into the 6th inning and gave up 3 earned runs or less. In those 16 starts, his ERA was 2.53. Now, in his other 4 starts, his ERA was above 10, and that's why he had a 3.86 ERA. But you're talking 80% of the time that guy's giving you a 2.50 ERA.
Right.
To me, that's an ace. So basically what you're telling me is that a guy's going to go out there 20 starts, 25, 26 starts.
25 out of 30.
Out of 30, 32.
Well, we can even say 23. 23 out of 30.
Yeah, you give me 23 starts where you're allowing two runs a ball game, I'm going to sign up for that in blood. You know, and I'm looking at Grayson Rodriguez as taking that next step and being in the ace. And then people are talking about they only gave out 1-year deals. You signed a 35-year-old Sagano to a 1-year deal and a 41-year-old Charlie Morton to a 1-year deal. Well, they also know that they've got Grayson Rodriguez under team control till 2030, and they know that they've got Kyle Bradish under team control till 2029, and that dude's coming back. Is he going to be an ace this year? I very seriously doubt
Not this year.
That he adds much to the Orioles coming back this season. 2026, you have Bradish and Grayson Rodriguez at the top of your rotation. I think a lot of teams would sign up for that duo.
And maybe Cade Povich.
Yeah, and maybe Cade
Povich.
Maybe. You know, Cade Povich, if he keeps doing what he's doing out of that rotation right now, the Orioles are going to sit there and be like, what do we do with this guy?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to send him to Norfolk. He's got to be on your big league roster if he's pitching well all spring, especially after what he did in September last year. And he's a lefty in a right-handed in a ballpark that caters to left-handed pitching. Is what I'm trying to say there. Is he going to be in your rotation? I don't know. Do you move Sagano to the bullpen?
He's got to be on your team regardless.
Yeah, he's got to be on your team. And then there's something else that makes me think that maybe there's still a trade coming, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here, because there's a couple of pieces going on with this roster that make me think, what do the Orioles do here?
Yeah,
like what are they?
I think you can look across the board and say that.
yeah. There's a lot of roster decisions coming up for this team where you kind of like, I'm not so sure that this team is what it's going to be 3.5 weeks from now.
Mm-hmm.
And then Zach Eflin, I'm a little nervous about Eflin because I think that people saw Zach Eflin last year and what he did in 9 starts with the ball club, and I think that they thought, oh, this dude could be like a really high-end number 2. And I don't think that that's who Zach Eflin is. I think Zach Eflin's a guy that throws strikes. He's not going to walk a lot of guys. But I also don't think that you can realistically expect him to pitch to a 3.13 ERA.
Yeah.
I think that that's a guy who, at his best, if for a full season, if he stays healthy, which is a big if, he's only done it twice in his big league career. But if he stays healthy, I think that a 3.65 ERA is reasonable to expect out of Eflin, which is still really good. Is it an ace? No, it's not an ace. It's a solid number 2, a high end number 3. But I think expecting this guy to be a true number 1 on your ball club, you're going to be having some guys that are, pretty upset when he's in June with a 4.01 ERA.
Yeah. I like Zach.
I do too. Don't get me wrong. I like him.
Yeah. I mean, you and I've, and plenty of other fans, we've watched him for years in Philly and in Tampa. He's never been an ace, and he's never pitched to be an ace, but he's a very good 2 or 3. Now, if he becomes a 3 in this rotation because a trade does happen, good golly. Like, that's a damn good rotation right there when Zach Eflin's your number 3. I would like to get to that point. I don't think is he a proxy ace if we use him by 1? Sure. And I see Kenny said he could be this team's Miguel Gonzalez, and that's a great comparison. Miguel was a proxy guy for us, and he did well in the role, and that's what Zach Eflin is. He would do well in his role, but he's not the guy, Grayson to me has more upside as the guy. Like, throw him out there, and if you have to fall back to Zach Eflin, like, that's not a problem either. And then, I don't think we have to get to that point though, because Zach's an older veteran, been around. He's been on some good teams. Charlie Morton's been around forever, and he's been on some good teams. And I think the Orioles have surrounded Grayson Rodriguez with a bunch of the right guys to kind of keep him level-headed and to learn about every single start. Because the only thing that's ever really bothered me truly about Grayson Rodriguez was he always wore his emotions on his sleeve. Like a typical young guy, which, you know what, I gave him a pass because he was a young guy. But now I don't want to see that too much anymore. Now I want you to go out there and just shove. And, if you get shoved, maybe just yell into your glove a little bit and then it's over. And I think that's Charlie Morton and Zach Eflin will play a big role into that. But yeah, I mean, Zach, I'm with you. He's a proxy ace if needed, but he's a number 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans know that, but I also think that there's a lot of fans who are looking at what he did when he came over here and they're like, oh, that's the guy. And he's very good. And when you have guys in your rotation like Sagano and like Eflin who aren't going to walk a lot of dudes, like they're combined, you might see more walks from Dean Kramer than those 2 guys combined.
Right.
When you have guys like that in your rotation that don't walk a lot of batters, that's good for your team. Yeah, you pitch to a lot more contact because they're not big strikeout guys either, but they also pitch to a lot of weak contact. But I just want people to be wary. Like, if you think that you're getting a 2.5 to low 3 ERA out of Zach Eflin, you're probably going to be disappointed this year because he's usually that guy like every other year. It seems like. Yeah. It seems like.
And I just kind of looked. I mean, it almost kind of to what I was even saying. The Orioles almost put an emphasis on more mature pitchers. I mean, Dean's 29, right? So he'll start to take that maturity jump. Grayson's the youngest guy on the staff at 25.
Mhm.
I mean, and then it's Dean at 29, but then you've got 35, 41, and what is he 29 too, or Eflin, is he 30?
Eflin, I think, isn't Eflin like 32?
He's 30. So you've got a 4 to 5 year difference from everybody else to sit around Grayson Rodriguez and teach him how to go about your business. What I feel like in years past, we've had a fairly young pitching staff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of excited to kind of see how and this is all to groom Grayson Rodriguez because, like you said, he's under control till 2030. And Cade Povich is 24, so he's also here to be groomed for a very long time. I'm excited about that. I know some people don't like how the ages of some of these guys, but look, old guys win baseball games in the big leagues. They're not the young, spicy, sexy prospect, and I understand that, but old guys win baseball games in the big leagues. They've been there for a long time. They know how to do it. Couldn't they single-handedly go out and win 15 games themselves? No, but they can put you in a position to have 15 decisions, and that's all we ask out of these guys. You just get me through the fifth. We're supposed to have a pretty good bullpen. So if Charlie Morton and Sagano and Dean Kramer can get you just through the fifth with a lead, we should win those games, right? I mean,
yeah. And it leads you to what the offense is going to do. And last year we saw it, especially in the second half. You saw Gunnar pressing. Rutschman just completely disappeared off the face of the planet. Big situations, guys swinging for the fences instead of just getting that key base hit. We saw that reared its ugly head in Game 2 of the postseason. Bases loaded, nobody out, and trying to hit a grand slam to give your team a big boost instead of just hitting the fly ball, or a ground ball into the hole somewhere to get a run home. It's the offense is going to have to step up, and if the offense can do what they've been averaging for the last 2 years, because despite the shortcomings in the second half last year, they still averaged about 4 3/4 runs a game, right? Yeah. And the year before that, it was right around 5 runs a game. If they get better with runners in scoring position, they continue to score 4.5 to 5 runs a game, and your starting rotation is now getting you through the fifth, through the sixth inning. Most nights at 3 earned runs or less, you're in good shape.
Yeah.
The bullpen still scares the ever loving crap out of me because
I think every team in baseball can say that, honestly.
Yeah, like there are some guys in there that can either be really freaking good or really freaking bad, and we saw that at both sides of that last year when this team really struggled and played 500 ball the second half of the season. Yep. So a lot hinges on this rotation. And look, that's such an obvious thing to say. A lot hinges on the rotation and the bullpen and the offense. Well, yeah, that's baseball, right? Yeah. But like, are your guys going to be better than the other guys? And I think that this team has a really, really good roster. It's just, how good are they? How much are they going to be able to step up? And I think that the biggest question here is, how good is the starting rotation really going to be?
Yep.
So then, before we continue, Glenn Clark Radio this show is brought to you by Glenn Clark Radio. If you missed anything from Glenn Clark Radio this week, including conversations with Booger McFarland, Scott McGregor, Maryland basketball legend Lonnie Baxter, and more, you can find them all right now in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature at PressBoxOnline.com. And as always, watch or listen to GCR every Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon at PressBoxOnline.com/radio or right here on Facebook and YouTube. And we just started talking about the offense. And again, you're 9 games into the Grapefruit League schedule. Gunnar has 6 at-bats. Jordan Westburg has 2 at-bats. Tyler O'Neill has 4 plate appearances, right? So you're not really looking at those guys and expecting to see much. But the guys that are getting consistent at-bats that aren't hitting right now, Ryan O'Hearn's 0 for 9 he has 2 walks and a strikeout, so he's not striking out a ton or anything like that, but he has no base hits.
Yeah.
First at is 2 for 14 with 7 strikeouts. Cedric Mullins is 1 for 10 with 4 strikeouts. These are the guys that you want to see hitting right now because they're so important to this roster. They're guys that are going to be, you expect to be on the big league roster and have a big say in how this offense goes, and they're just not hitting. And with Kjerstad, it's especially concerning because you're looking to see him help replace the production that you're losing by not having Anthony Santander. 2 for 14 with 7 strikeouts is not what we were hoping for.
Right.
Maybe he needed to get off to a hot start, maybe more than anybody else. That doesn't mean that he won't get hot. Doesn't mean he won't start tearing the cover off the baseball. But is it concerning to you that you haven't seen him get going yet with all the playing time? He has more bats than just about everybody else.
Yeah, I saw Kenny's comment. Do we think Heston and Mayo both start in Norfolk? I think Heston gets his shot. I don't think that's too much of a problem. Mayo, I think for sure, will start in Norfolk, but Heston's going to get his shot, I think. And I am a little concerned because he did get there early. So he's been there a couple weeks. You would think that he's a little ahead. So just a little concerned. Is he feeling maybe some of the pressure? Is he just working on something new? He's got plenty of time to turn it around. But with the amount of depth in camp and competition, I think it will start once you get past that 20 at bat threshold. It's going to start creeping up on you a little bit. Lariano's not, lighting the team on fire. Near as Carlson, but these guys are veterans and they've been around for a while, and you know what you're going to get out of them. You still don't know what you're going to get out of Heston. So, if he goes in, into the end of these 3.5 weeks and he's still only hitting 200 and he's got 15, 17 strikeouts, could he go back to Norfolk? I don't know. I think they want to give him his opportunity to be an everyday guy and get the at-bats. So hopefully he just kind of settles down a little bit, figures out what he's working on and takes that by the horn. Ryan O'Hearn, not too concerned. I mean, Ryan's a professional hitter. That guy probably could go 0 for 30 in spring training and still come out and hit 300 with runners in scoring position and 2 strikes. That's just what he is. Maybe he's working on being a little bit more aggressive in the account. Maybe he's working on trying to get to 2 strikes to continue to work on that. I don't know. He doesn't bother me whatsoever. Mullins, on the other hand, I think it's all in the back of everybody's mind. Could he fall back into that slump? I think a lot of people are expecting a fairly good season out of Mullins this year. To kind of see him start off that slow is just slightly concerning. I'll give it a 3 out of 10 on my concern meter. Same thing, because he's a veteran. He knows how to get out of it, and he could also be working on something new. I don't know. But I'd like to see some certain guys do a little bit better. I mean, after watching Coby Mayo last year and then coming out this year, what is it, 1 for 16 or something like that? You would like to see something a little bit more out of him. When we talked with Mike Bordick, he's going to have to find a way to hit his way onto this roster. He's been given a lot of opportunities so far. And, a guy like Basayo's taking advantage of his opportunities, but, Coby's not. Are they going to fix his swing completely if, he struggles the entire spring? In my eyes, there's a hitch in his swing. I see it clear as day. I would hope the hitting coaches see it too. Maybe they just let it go because he is one of the better hitting prospects in all of the minors. But that's something that these big league guys are going to find very easily and exploit it. And I don't know. To say that I'm concerned about Gary Sanchez the way he started, not really. I don't think Gary plays a whole lot. That we talked about. There's no way he's going to do what James McCann did. I don't know what their plans are with him. If he does catch 60-some games, goodness. I hope he's hitting better than 200. That's for sure.
And that he's going to DH in a bunch
which
of
I'm
games
okay with.
too.
If he's hitting, I'm fine with it. I mean, at times last year, James McCann was hitting, and I wanted him in the lineup again, especially against lefties. And he didn't hit, and I never understood the whole put 2 catchers in the lineup at the same time kind of thing.
Not a fan of that.
Personally, can't stand it. I can't stand it unless you're going to carry a 3rd catcher or have some kind of emergency catcher. Like, please teach Ramon Urias how to catch or something. Then I'd feel a little bit more comfortable about it. But all it takes is a stupid wild pitch, and McCann or Gary's finger breaks, or Adley sliding back into first base, dislocates a finger, and you're screwed. Sure, it's just one game, but I mean, sometimes one game is the difference of you not making a playoffs or not. I hate that whole thing.
Yeah, and you saw it. McCann took a 95-mile-an-hour fastball off the face, and he had to stay in the ball game. And look, he wanted to, and it was like one of the most polarizing moments of the entire season of any team in baseball. But that dude was basically forced to stay in the game because you have a doubleheader and you don't have an emergency catcher on the roster, and Adley, you can't have Adley come off the bench and catch both ends of a doubleheader.
Let me ask you something really stupid, because the NFL adopted this. You know, when you have your emergency quarterback now, a third guy who's not technically active, but to prevent that kind of a situation, you can activate him mid-game. Would it be smart on baseball to allow a bullpen catcher to be active, or we'll say a bullpen catcher to be active if an emergency happens?
Well, they have the taxi squad, right? So
but I'm talking like mid-game, like somehow you lose both your catchers, and then it's not good for the game. Like, you can replace two infielders, you can replace two outfielders, but you can't replace two catchers.
Sure, and that's an excellent question, because what are the chances both your catchers get hurt in the same game?
For the Orioles, it's eventually going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, let's say that McCann takes that fastball off the nose, and then Adley comes in and he rolls his ankle stepping on first base. What the hell do you do? And that's why you have the taxi squad, because then you can activate that guy for the second game of that doubleheader. But you can't, or maybe you can activate, because hockey has that. Hockey has that where they have like a goalie sitting in the stands, and if you lose both your goalies, you can bring that guy in.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the same thing. Maybe that's what the taxi squad allows you to do because they brought that on with COVID. Like, if somebody tested for COVID, you've got this guy on the taxi squad, he can come in and play for you. So maybe that's something that's already in place and we just don't know about it. It would seem to me that it would make sense, because anybody can go out and play second base. Maybe you can't play it well. Anybody can go play left field. Maybe you can't play it well, but you can do it. You can't have somebody come in that doesn't know how to catch at the big league level. Calling pitches,
the ball moves way too much.
Yeah, you can't have that. So I think that it would be smart, and I don't think it's a stupid question at all. It makes me wonder, do they already have something like that in place, and we just don't realize that the taxi squad affords them that ability? It would be interesting to look into. So we're talking a little bit here about this offense, and you mentioned Laureano, and Laureano has started the spring 3 for 11. He made some good defensive plays today. He's got decent speed out there. He gets to the baseball in the outfield, and he's got a cannon for an arm. And to the point where, like, he had a really solid throw to first base today on what should have been a double play, but it was off the mark a little bit, and the first baseman couldn't get back to the bag in time. I think it was Rivera. Couldn't get back to the bag in time to get the double play. And Laureano was, like, beside himself, upset that he couldn't make that throw. If he continues to hit and he continues to play well, and Cedric Mullins continues to struggle, and we see Cedric start the year the way that we saw him start the year last year, how much does Laureano begin to play over Cedric Mullins? Was he brought here, and potentially we talked about a trade? Was he potentially brought here to play center field for the Orioles if they find a trade partner for Cedric Mullins as part of a package to bring in a starting pitcher? Do you think that is part of the Orioles' plans whatsoever?
I think anything's on the table right now, because I think everybody loves Cedric defensively, and you all want him to get back to where he was offensively, and just what he brings the team with, as far as his leadership and whatnot. But it's a business. And if he starts slow, there's just too much depth now to sit through what we watched the beginning of last year. And whether it's Laureano or it's Cowser, both of them can play center field at a very high level. And both of them can play left field at a very high level. And I think Laureano checks a lot of boxes. He might be the best fourth outfielder we've ever had in terms of defensively. I'd maybe put him up there with David Lau, as far as defense goes. Way better arm than David, obviously, but be able to go to get the ball and play all three positions. So it's been a while since we've had a fourth outfielder that could really do it. Ryan McKenna was pretty decent at it. I think Laureano's a little bit better at that point in their careers. But But yeah, I think he was brought here for competition and for plan B. If Kjerstad really struggles in the field, you've got Lariano. If Mullins really struggles at the plate, I've got Kalzer and Lariano. If Tyler O'Neill gets hurt, you've got Lariano. Look, I definitely think that all three of those options are at one point going to happen this year. And they signed him for a reason. And not just for this year. I mean, $6.5 million team option next year. Like they still believe this guy can play.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought him in here to play. And I don't want to say Mullins' lease is short. But I mean, if you're hitting around that 200 range again, and it might be Mateo when Mateo comes back. We don't know. I don't think they give him the amount of time they gave him last year, though. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we've mentioned it before. Cedric Mullins is not going to be here after this season. He's not getting an extension to stay in Baltimore. He would have to go 30-30 again this year, and a guy like Kalzer would have to fall off a cliff. Like he would have to have an Adley Rutschman type second half for Mullins to factor into the Orioles' future plans beyond this season. And it was just like Austin Hayes coming out of arbitration last year. He had that hearing. He said it went really well, and he was like, "I want to, sign an extension and stay in Baltimore." And I felt so bad for him because I'm like, dude, you've got to be able to look around and know that that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? That's not going to happen. It's the same thing with Cedric Mullins. It's not going to happen. Now, the Orioles basically, they got Seranthony Dominguez by trading Austin Hayes. Now, are the Orioles looking at it because we were just talking about Cade Povich and how he might factor into something going on with the Orioles. Now, look, you might have to trade more than just Cedric Mullins, and I'm thinking like a Dean Kramer, because if you're making that trade, what are you trading for? Are you trading for Sonny Gray? Are you trading for a relief option? What are you making that trade for? But if Cade Povich is forcing your hand, and if Cedric Mullins is forcing your hand in the bad way, there could be something, or maybe it's not even that. Maybe Laureano's just playing so well, and Mullins it just isn't performing the way that because what Laureano did in his last 90 some odd games that he played for the Braves last year was better than anything Mullins did at any point last year. Yeah. Right. So
Mullins had that 2-week stretch where he was hot.
Well, and I'll tell you, from June 9th to the end of the year, Mullins hit 279 with a 388 on base percentage. A lot of people don't seem to realize that he had a really strong final 3 months of the season last year. Yeah. But he's got to be able to do that for the first 3 months too. Like Anthony Santander was awesome in June and July, and in April, May, August, and September, he just wasn't that good. Yep. You've got to be able to play a full season. And I look at what Daniel Pitts said here. He says it does really feel like some kind of trade is coming. Now, maybe this is wishful thinking. Maybe it's because we look at this team and we know how close they are to being a legitimate contender. They talk about the depth on this team. You can't tell me there's a deeper team in the American League East right now. I think that the Orioles have a backup plan at seemingly every single position on the diamond. So they're deep. But do they have that one guy that puts them over the top? Aside from, Gunnar, and you expect Westburg to be this guy, and, maybe Adley's going to have this bounce back year. Maybe O'Neill can stay healthy. But you have that one guy that you can add to your rotation or to your bullpen where it's like, oh, this is the team to beat right now. And maybe there's a trade coming for that because, Arias, glad you love having him when Westburg isn't there. Mateo, he's got a role in any big league team if he's used correctly. So this team has contingency plans, but they also have a big roster crunch. I just look at this roster. How are they going to move forward with too many guys for too little positions without making some kind of move?
Yeah, I think we all love Urias for what he's done. If I had to give up Urias to acquire a pretty damn good bullpen arm, I'm pretty sure I'd be okay with Emmanuel Rivera playing 60 games, getting some at-bats here against left-handed pitching here and there. I'm content with that. And I think we can kind of look around the roster. Mateo is the same way. People love him. Look, if they traded him, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Right. If he can bring me back a quality player, I mean, like you said, you got You got Dominguez for Austin Hayes, a guy you were likely going to cut. So could you get that for Urias or Mateo or Mullins? Sure, I think you probably could. Somebody out there would value one of those three players. I think Ramon Urias could start on the lower halves of the teams around here.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, hell, he could start for the Yankees right now. I'll be dead honest with you. They have no one to play third base.
It's true.
And I'll also be dead honest with you. Jason Dominguez sucks in left field. They need a left fielder. And I've heard, I'll put him in center field. Look, I've seen Cameron Maben talk about it. Oh, sometimes the left field, the route's just a little bit different than center field. It ain't that much different. You know, when you're camped under a ball and you just can't catch it, Jason Dominguez right now looks really pathetic in the outfield. They might need another outfielder. And the beauty about that is if they would value Cedric Mullins, they would have to slightly overpay because it's interdivision. I'd make that trade, probably. It would suck to play against him, sure, but I mean, if you brought me one of those guys that throw 100 miles an hour in their system, I'm probably not going to complain about it. You know, we don't have a lot of guys that throw near 100 miles an hour in our system. Like, it's a win-win for both teams, and we've got plenty of those guys when you kind of look around the roster. And then we've got some high quality players mixed in there with it, and it's all. Look, it's how aggressive does Mike want to be, and how aggressive does he want to change the team? And I get the whole locker room thing, and these guys really get along, and I'm 1,000% for that, because sometimes that wins over talent when you have the camaraderie and stuff like that. But I think, and like you keep saying, I think something is coming, and I'm hoping it's sooner rather than like right before opening day, just so somebody gets a chance to kind of come in here and fit in a little bit and kind of learn the ways of some of the other guys. But I also think this locker room wouldn't care either. It would suck to lose their guy, and I think they all understand that it's a business, and somebody who's walking through that door is going to help the team win, and that's all they care about. I just something's going to happen. And I don't know if it's going to be for a starter, because I think they're already pretty hard pressed on what the hell they're going to do there. But it wouldn't shock me if it's for a bullpen arm.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know how you can look at Seranthony Dominguez, even though it's early in spring training. He had the home run issues last year. They're rearing their ugly head again this year. Even with the wind-aided home runs, he's still okay. Let's take away Tyler O'Neill's home run. He's still giving up 2 home runs in 2 innings. Yeah. And again, he's just throwing fastballs in fastball counts, you know, or in hitters counts at this point, just trying to work on stuff. But he clearly has an issue keeping the ball in the ballpark, and he's a contingency plan if Felix Bautista isn't back to his old self. And that scares the crap out of me. So yeah. I feel like this team is in desperate need of one more bullpen arm for me to feel really confident in this team moving forward. I still think this might be the best team in the division. I think if they go into opening day right now with the depth that they have, the tight-knit group that they have in that locker room, you'd be hard-pressed to find a team that is going to be better than the Orioles this year in the American League. And, you know, I've been one of those people that all off season was like, they need more. I'm not confident. I even said at one point I was out on Elias, you know, and until you kind of start watching this team, you kind of start paying attention to the fact that, like, it seems like they have a plan as far as what they're going to do with their rotation beyond this year, what they're going to do with their lineup beyond this year, the expectations that they have. So I think that this team is really deep. And you look at in Toronto, I mean, they don't know what's going on with Vladdy. He's like, they must have lowballed him. He's not going to be coming back to the Toronto Blue Jays unless they completely blow him away out of nowhere. The Red Sox have Rafael Devers saying he's not coming off at third base, like that's his decision. The Yankees, they have no idea what's going on over at third base for them. Meanwhile, the Orioles are over here just having the time of their lives. You know, like they're building Lego forts together. You know what I mean? This team, there's not a lot of crap going on around this team, and so it gives me confidence for them moving forward. But for me to be confident they're going to go and get to a World Series that they're inevitably probably going to lose to the LA Dodgers, I think they need one more bullpen piece to make me feel that much better about this team moving forward. Today's show brought to you by County Sports Zone. Find every score from every high school sporting event all year long at countysports.zone. Proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. What is your feelings on Coby Mayo? 1 for 16 this spring after going 4 for 41 in his cup with his cup of coffee last year. I don't, for the life of me, they're still trying to make him a third baseman. He's either got to play first base or they've got to DH him, or why have they not tried him in the corner outfield yet? You said that you think that there's a hitch in his swing. If you're seeing that, the Orioles have to be seeing that. How big does he factor into their future plans? Because right now he's gotten a couple of looks and he hasn't hit. I
like Coby as a player. I think he could turn into a fantastic player long term. Now I say that probably as a fantastic hitter. I just haven't seen enough. I mean, look, we've seen a little bit and we've heard the grumblings about the defensive struggles and whatnot. I haven't seen enough to say let's write off a 20-year-old kid or a 21-year-old kid, or whatever he is, 23. I don't even know. The hitch is easy to fix, and the reason why I think they're still kind of forcing the whole third base, first base hand is he has almost no trade value as a DH, in my opinion.
Well, why not the corner outfield?
They got to teach it to him. You're not going to just persuade a team to say, oh, hey, give me one of your better pitchers for Coby Mayo and teach him how to play right field because he really sucks at third. Like, you got to do that yourself. And I think their best bet is to make him work enough at third or first. I don't know. He's got to fix the hitch. And he can go back to AAA, and the hitch is going to be fine. You're not going to see it. But he's got to fix it. And when I say that he's a hitch, so he starts the hands here. And when the ball comes, he drops. And then as he's loading, it comes back up. You don't have time for that in the big leagues. It's way too much. And I see it in almost every video of him. And sure, look, he's hitting cage bombs. That's cool. And he's hitting bombs off 91 and 92 in AAA. And sometimes he might see 93, 94, 95. That's fine. You can time it up for that. It's a little different in the big leagues. You're seeing a little bit more guys that are 6'6" and above that are throwing 95 plus. So you've only got 49 to 51 feet to really make a decision to swing or not. And then you've got this in your swing. It's a really effed up situation. And I was look, when I watched the first couple games last year, I immediately saw Jordan Westburg changing his stance and his hands. I immediately saw it in Colton Cowser. And I didn't see it in Coby Mayo this year. And I was really disappointed. And I made a video about it. And I didn't want to be too mean about it because I like Coby. And I think if he fixes it, he's going to light the world on fire. I was just really disappointed that I still saw it. I saw a little less of it. You know, the foot last year was really rushed. This year, it's not as rushed, but the hands are a big deal, man. And look, if you want to drop, just start there. You're eliminating a hitch at that point because then you're just doing what Judge does. You start low and you get to a hitting position. That's what everybody in baseball does. You got to get to the hitting position. Right. You can't start in a hitting position, drop, and then get back to it. Not with these kind of fastballs, not with these kind of sliders, you know. And if you're rushing your front foot and your hands aren't ready, and then you got to blow open to, you know, kind of get the bat around, it's just disaster. I was concerned that I still saw it. And there was only one BP, there's only one BP clip that I even seen, which is really embarrassing that I even made a video about it. But like I picked it up that fast, like, and that's what made me so concerned. But I feel like he's that close. You fix that and you'll see the 25, 30 home run Coby Mayo in the big leagues because it'll be impossible to get a ball by him at that point. But right now it might all be up here. He might be trying too hard. might be overthinking. You know, maybe they are trying to get him to stop doing it. Maybe he's overthinking, because when you get in that box, you shouldn't think at all. I that's the part as a fan we don't know, but it puts the O's in a bad spot if he's not capable defensively. Again, I don't know enough about him to say if he is or isn't. We've seen a little bit of it. I still think it's a little not enough time to really make a decision that he can't do it. Right field's probably an option. He's almost fallen into the Ryan Mountcastle plan, where Ryan came out as a shortstop, and you heard how good the arm was, but the defense was a little shaky, but he could out-hit everybody. And then he tried third, and then he tried left, and then he tried right, and he settled at first. Probably going to see the same thing with Mayo. The problem with Mayo is there's just shit ton of guys that also play first base in this organization. That's not really an option right now. So if the O's do want to trade him, because he still has a ton of value. He's still a top 100 prospect. He still has the potential to hit 45 home runs in this league. They just need him to have a position, because then it's the difference between acquiring a number 2 arm and a number 3, you know, not having that position. And that's kind of a big deal for the O's.
Heston Kjerstad, a lot of swing and miss. We talked about it earlier, 7 strikeouts in 14 spring at-bats. How much of that do you think is mental? Have you seen anything with his swing like you saw with Mayo? A lot of people, myself included, have high hopes for Heston Kjerstad. I don't want to see him traded, because I think that he's a guy who can hit 30 to 40 home runs at the big league level, and you definitely need that, losing 44 from Santander. Is there anything that you've seen from him, or is this just a guy who just hasn't gotten hot? But
I think Heston's fine. He's a swing and miss guy, and we'll have to be a little prepared for that. Think of him like Santander. He's a swing and miss guy, but when he connects, he's going to drive the ball. We might see 150, 200 strikeouts out of him, but if he hits 35 home runs, you got to take what you can get. I think Heston's a better hitter than that. I don't think we'll probably see 200, but he's going to strike out. He's going to be like Hauser, where sometimes he might strike out in a big situation, but the ball jumps off their bats, and they're going to swing because of that. I'm okay with that. I don't want to see a guy like Heston Kjerstad or Colton Cowser just kind of shorten it up and try to poke it into the outfield, because it's probably going to look ugly for one, and it's probably not going to work for two. You know, these guys, they're going to make their living swinging the bat 100 miles an hour every at bat. And the game has changed to kind of adopt to that, and I think we just need to be prepared. That's just who Heston Kjerstad is, and the defense needs to come with it. That's the thing. Santander played good enough defense that we all enjoyed it enough for a couple of years. I haven't seen enough from Heston to confidently say that he'll replace Anthony in the outfield. Hitting wise, Heston's got a good swing. He's got good mechanics. He stays on the ball pretty good. I feel like he controls the bat in the zone pretty good. He keeps it in. It's not a long swing. You know, it's not an uppercut swing or anything like that. He takes the hands of the ball. He does everything you're supposed to do. It's just sometimes you might just swing through it, and that's baseball. You know, not everybody's going to be a really good contact hitter.
Yeah, that's true. And then you look at Jackson Holliday, another base hit today. He's 4 for 12 this spring. Hit a big home run the other day, a nice long home run. The toe tap seems to be working for him. He was striking out a little bit more than I would have liked to start the spring, but he has just the 3 strikeouts now in 12 at bats. I don't know if I think he looks like a different player because I want him to look like a different player, or if it's because I actually think he does. But I did see him on a curveball today. There were times last year where he would get a curveball and he'd either freeze or would look really off balance. Today he looked square. He looked on balance. He did hit the ball foul. But he put a good swing on it and looked really on balance on that pitch. Not a lot to go by, especially by what we've been able to see, because they've only played three games on television right now, and only 2 on Masson. Your feelings on Holliday to this point in the spring? Because last year he got hot and ended up having a nice spring. Is this more of what we saw last year, or is it different?
I think it's different. He's a little older, a little bit more mature. and he's been there and he's felt the failures and the struggles. He knows what to look for. He knows what to work on. I'm sure he spent a lot of time with his dad and his uncle, who's, what is he, the head coach at Oregon State. He's been in great facilities all off season. I mean, he's been around enough people that are going to dissect that swing and perfect it. And I feel like, I mean, like you said, it's not a whole lot that we've seen, but from what I have seen on TV, it is balanced now. Where last year it was that high leg kick, and sometimes, if you get it down late, everything else is going to be late with it. Keeping the foot pretty low to the ground now, that allows you to kind of hover it there for half a second. If it happens to be a slider, that's the big difference in having a foot way up here and having to bring it back down, as opposed to, that far off the ground and then just kind of drop it when you need it, and then everything's still in motion. Balance is a big thing when you're hitting, and he looks way more comfortable in the box. He looks more confident and just more balanced. So I think what we're seeing now is going to translate into the regular season. He's still 21 though. And if he strikes out 100 plus times this year, he's still 21. There's still guys in the big leagues that know what they're doing and they know how to attack a young kid. But as long as he keeps getting better, I can't ask for anything else.
Mike Bordick was on your show last weekend, and you were talking to him about Jackson Holliday, and he was talking about how, look, this guy was a shortstop. The ball's coming at you. Everything's in front of you. You have the timing of a shortstop. You can be more aggressive with it. When you're playing second base, you're not paying attention. You can't see the runner coming down the box. And if you are, you're not – he didn't say this part, but if you are paying attention to that, you're not going to be fielding the ground ball. The timing's completely different. It's a completely different position. And people – if you can play shortstop, you can play second. No. You can't. It's a completely different angle, a completely different position. And I know that he probably worked on this a lot this off season. Brian Roberts told him something about doing a flip on a double play, and he immediately did it almost to perfection, to the point where Roberts was like, I can't believe he did that quickly. Defensively, the kid can obviously field a ground ball. He can play infield defense. Do you have the confidence that Jackson Holliday can be an elite defender, and not even an elite defender, just a good defender at second base?
He's an athlete. And I've said it before. I think he'd be an all-star in center field, but that's more to just his athletic ability. I don't think it matters where you play him on the field. He's going to find a way to get it done once he feels comfortable there. And that's all baseball is just feeling comfortable. He's gonna feel better there this year. He's probably watched the film. He's probably taken 6 million ground balls from that side of the bag kind of thing. I don't see any issues. I think eventually he will grow into an all-star if it's not this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and look, like I said, I watched The Pursuit a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, when they were just doing his story, this 26-minute YouTube video, and he said that he wants to be a Gold Glove second baseman. I think that kid on a baseball field can do anything he wants to do. I think he can do whatever the hell he sets his mind out to do. So I would not be surprised in the least to see him be a standout defensive second baseman. Is he going to be a Gold Glover? I mean, he's in the same division as Andres Jimenez. But do I think that he can provide Gold Glove caliber defense? I'm not putting it past him. I don't think anybody else should either. All right, let's get to some fan interaction or viewer interaction before we get out of here. It's weird for me to say that I have fans, so we'll say viewer interaction. Dan says, Paul, you can. I didn't mean to click on that. Yeah, but I had too many boxes open on my computer. It made things run slowly. Dan says, Basayo has looked really impressive this spring. He really looks like he belongs here. I don't see how he stays in Norfolk all season. I want to pump the brakes on Basayo a little bit. Do I think that this guy is going to be able to you got a couple of visitors back there. Do I
Kyle, right?
Yeah, but he's crying me because he had a little lollipop and now he wants an Irwin.
Oh, okay.
All right, man. I'm going to let you go ahead and take care of the kiddos.
I can hear him screaming up there.
Go ahead. Go ahead and get out of here. Do what you got to do. Go be a dad. I completely understand. I'm going through it myself with my daughter at the house right now. So go do what you got to do. We'll talk throughout this week, and we'll see you in a couple weeks for your next show. Thanks for taking the time, man. All right, see you, man. That was Zach Moore, dad duty call, so he had to go out and take care of that. So I'll get to these questions that you've got. And when I say I want to pump the brakes on Basayo, it is really easy to get just into a prospect. We did it with Gunnar. We did it with Jackson Holiday. We did it with Coby Mayo and Heston Kjerstad, and we're doing it now with Samuel Basayo. Look, that home run he hit the other day was just otherworldly. It was an absolute bomb. I saw Colton Cowser hit a 476-foot home run to dead center field a couple of springs ago. These guys are professional hitters, right? Basayo's got to learn how to catch at a big league level. He's also doing this against other minor leaguers. He's one of the top prospects in the game for a reason. But until he's doing that against big league pitching, I'm not going to say that he belongs here right now. And part of that is because I want to be cautious, because I thought that Jackson belonged here last year in spring training, and then he started his career 1 for 32 with like 17 strikeouts. So I just want to pump the brakes on saying that anybody who hasn't been here and done it yet is going to do it, because I think we're just setting ourselves up for disappointment. But yeah, Basayo has done everything right to this point. Good time guy says Laureano has looked good, and Povich. And they're the two reasons why I think there might be a trade coming. Like, look, it's way too early to say that anybody that's struggling in spring training on either side, whether it's a pitcher or it's a hitter, it's way too early to say that, especially when you look at the fact that nobody's played back-to-back yet. I mean, Mullins is 1 for 10, and he hasn't played back-to-back games yet. So how do you get into a rhythm when you're not playing every day? That's going to come. But look, if Laureano, he's doing just like Basayo, he's doing everything he's supposed to do, everything that you could ask him to do. He's going to play good defense. He's going to be on this roster. What's his role going to be? Is he going to take over in center field for Mullins? Is Povich going to force the Orioles' hand and put himself into that conversation with, look, we can't afford to not have this guy in our starting rotation. They've got a ballpark that goes against right-handed hitting, and you have no lefties in your starting rotation. Povich, he's everything he's done this spring. I mean, 5 innings pitched, 1 hit, no walks, or 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. He's going to make the Orioles have to make a decision if he keeps that up. But again, it's 2 starts in. What's going to happen the first time he struggles? Can he come back from that? Because he's going to struggle at some point this spring. He's not going to go 6 spring starts and allow no runs, strike out 25, and walk 2. That's not going to happen. So we're going to have to see. Daniel, I honestly love that Hyde has given Holiday and Cowser the green light to steal whenever they want. I usually don't like Hyde's decisions. You're not going to see me get on Hyde for any decision, good or bad, that he makes in spring training, or really at the beginning of the season. I might have an issue with the bullpen usage or something. I'm going to reserve any kind of ire or celebration for Hyde until a month or 2, maybe 3 months into the season. But I do like the fact that Holiday and Cowser are running, that the team is running more. These guys have the speed to swipe bags. They have the baseball acumen and the base running acumen to swipe bags. And I think it makes this team that much more dangerous to be animals on the base paths. Holiday's been thrown out a few times, but that's just getting used to swiping bags at the big league level. So I'm with you, Daniel. I love the fact that they're stealing more bases right now, because I think that's just going to give them that leg up on the competition. Most Orioles fans cringe when we hear the name Brian Baker. I don't know how you can't. And like I said a week or so ago, get that bum off this team. Like, I get that these are people that have feelings, and like it's a mean thing to say. I've watched this dude for 3 years be more bad than good, and if he's been more good than bad, then the bad is really just magnified, because it's been that bad at times. I don't want to see Brian Baker on this roster unless he is just that dude. I'm going to have to see a full season of him being just that dude for me to ever believe that he's that dude and not the other dude that I'm used to. Let's see. Kenny Zaralski, do you think Heston and Mayo both start in Norfolk? I think Mayo 100% does. I think Heston's going to we already talked about this. I think Heston's going to get some run at the big league level. I think that he's firmly in their plans. We already did that. Eflin is his team's Miguel Gonzalez. Miguel Gonzalez was sneaky good for the Orioles. He had a higher WAR than Chris Tillman his first 2 years here. And Chris Tillman was really good during that time span. I think Eflin's good. If anybody thinks he's an ace, I just don't want you to get. It's the same thing about Basayo and saying he like pumping the brakes a little bit. I just don't want you to set yourself up for disappointment, because if these guys are just good and not great, you're going to be disappointed. Daniel says Mayo isn't going to get anything from dominating AAA again. Play him or trade him. If he's got that hitch in the swing, you can't play him. I mean, they've got to figure that out. If he really does have that, he starts up here, he comes down, then comes back up again. That's detrimental to playing it, not just at the big leagues, at any level. Like, to have success with that kind of movement in your swing, I don't know how you do that. So, and who's he going to play over? And is he going to play every day? He's not going to play over Mountcastle unless Mountcastle gets hurt. O'Hearn is a left-handed bat that mashes righties. I just don't think that he's going to play over anybody right now where it justifies him being here, because he has to. If he's going to be here, you have to play him every day, and you can't afford in the American League East, when you're expected to be in contention for a division title and you're trying to go to a World Series, or at least trying to win some games in the postseason. You don't have the luxury of waiting to see if this guy can be something. You have to know. You have to know, and it'll behoove him if he starts hitting like now. Bird for Life. Hey, you got your mic turned on. Now all you need is a mic stream. I have one. It's in storage. Like, I expect it to be moved into our new house right now. I almost just stopped at Target and bought one on the way here today. I have one. It's way back in the back corner. I can't, there's not even a path. I can't get to it. I'm going to spring training. Bird for Life says, I'm going to spring training the 9th to the 16th, getting hyped. Let me know if you need anything. I need a couple of round trip plane tickets and a couple tickets to the game. So that's what I need. So if you want to help a brother out with that, that'd be really cool. Birdland Sports Zone, Mayo not helping his trade stock to spring. He's not, but also teams don't care. Teams don't care what you do in spring training. I think it was some really good hitter went like 0 for 32 in spring training and then had a monster season. Who was it? There was a player, and I can't remember his name. I want to say it was a Yankee, but there was a really good Yankees player who had like an 0 for 32 spring and still managed to come out and have a great year. The spring training does not matter for anything. But again, we want to see these guys do better. It beats the alternative. Playing well beats playing poorly. But when it comes to trade stock, Major League teams aren't going to look at Coby Mayo and say, oh, he's 1 for 16. We don't want him. They're going to be like, no, this is he's number 14 prospect in all of baseball. Teams are going to trade for him. They're going to give you a lot for that guy. Birdland Sports Zone, Arias won't bring back much, in my opinion, trade-wise. No, by himself, no. But we were talking about him being part of a package to bring some nice pieces back to your team. If you're trying to get a reliever and you package him with somebody else or a couple other players, that's when you're talking about Arias being a nice trade chip. Not by himself, though. What kind of haul would Gunnar Henderson get you after this year with 3 arbitration years left? Anything you want. AJ, if you are seriously thinking about trading Gunnar Henderson, which I think would be a huge mistake, and I think that the Orioles need to do everything they can when he hits free agency to keep him, because you're looking at Manny Machado all over again. But if the Orioles were seriously considering trading Gunnar Henderson with 3 years left of arbitration, they could ask for the sun, the moon, the stars, and all the oceans, and they would get it. They can have whatever they want. I think the only piece you're not getting is Ohtani and like Paul Skeens. And even then, the Pirates might trade you Paul Skeens to get Gunnar Henderson. Like, you could get anything you want. There's no limit. Daniel Pitts, find a team that needs a center fielder or third baseman and trade Arias and Mullins for a really good reliever. That's what we were talking about. I'm wondering if Laureano is kind of here because we heard Mike Elias say at the Birdland Caravan that they're still on the phones trying to do major league player for major league player deals. And I think that that's really all that you can do right now, because I don't think that they want to trade Mayo or Kjerstad or Basayo. They're not going to trade any of those guys, in my opinion, unless they're absolutely blown away. I think that they're more so inclined to trade a big league, somebody from their big league roster for big league talent. Some of these guys, you kind of see the writing on the wall. I like Cedric Mullins, and I think when Mullins is right, he's a really good offensive force, and he kind of makes his team go. And I hated seeing him being moved out of the leadoff role, though I understood it. And Arias, how much would we have missed Ramon Arias in August and September last year after Westburg got hurt if he had been traded? And I've been thinking he's going to be traded each spring for now 3 straight seasons. So I'm with you, but it's what are you getting and how and who is replacing them? AJ, wish Hyde put in Basayo versus Skeens. He's not going to do that yet. They're gonna have their showcase game here, I think on March 15th or 16th, and I don't know who it's against, but Basayo's going to get some play against some big time competition. He keeps looking the part. He's going to get more play. He's not breaking camp with the team. He's not breaking spring training with the Orioles this month. But he could force a conversation if he continues to do what he's doing right now, and then he goes down to Norfolk and he dominates. Just, patience. Patience is a virtue. Birdland Sports Zone. Woo for Mayo. Yeah, Seattle needs Brian Woo for Coby Mayo. That's interesting. 2 guys with team control, but good pitching beats good hitting more often than not. And while the Mariners need offensive thump, Woo's a proven major league starter who's under team control for like 5 more years. I don't know. I think it can't just be a 1-for-1. There's got to be more for that package because Mayo is still a project. I think in a lot of people's eyes, he's still a project. If you're giving up a proven, starting pitcher like Brian Woo, you've got to know that you're getting something that's guaranteed in return. AJ, you think Mayo will ever be better than Anthony Rizzo coming out of the same high school years apart? Rizzo was really good like through 2016, and he hasn't been much of anything since then. I made a comment about Rizzo not wanting to take less than what he thought he was worth the other day, and I felt bad because I didn't realize that he was like a cancer survivor and apparently just a hell of a nice guy. So I deleted the Twitter post after the quote tweet after the fact. But I just don't think he's a very good player anymore. I think his best years are several years behind him, and I don't think that at this point it's a stretch to be better than Anthony Rizzo. He had a nice 5-6 year run. Do I think Mayo can be better? I absolutely think Mayo can be better. But I'm just talking offensively. If you're talking defensively, Anthony Rizzo is a multi-time Gold Glove winner and like legitimately earned a Gold Glove, not just because he was a popular player. Like he was a really good defensive first baseman. Birdland Sports Zone. Santander won't hit 30 this year. He might. I mean, he's hit 30. He's hit 33, 28, and 44. He's averaging well over 30 home runs a year the last 3 seasons. I think he'll hit 30 plus. I think he'll probably hit 35 to 40 again, especially being protected by a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in that lineup. I think he'll hit more than 30. He says, by August, Santander will be the only guy in Toronto lineup who will be pressing to carry a bad team and won't hit 30. Yeah, I mean, if Vladdy gets traded, and Bichette gets traded, and maybe, but I mean, you can make the argument that after Gunnar down the stretch, Tony was the only guy in the Orioles lineup last year, and he still hit 44. So I'm not putting it past him. I've watched him hit, average well over 30 home runs a year for 3 straight years. I think he's going to hit over 30 again. Holiday looks so much more confident this season. This spring, I agree. I think he's a very determined young player, and I think like I said, I think he can do whatever he wants on a baseball field. How would you feel about a trade for Sandy Alcantara? I would love a trade for Sandy Alcantara. Here's the thing, and that's from Danny Bowles. Here's the thing with Alcantara and the Marlins. Are the Marlins ever going to try to be good? Like, are they ever going to try to be good? Like, yeah, they have all this great pitching, and it's like, yeah, we could just trade with them. Why do they? I mean, they gave up Pablo Lopez. They gave up Jesus Luzardo. At some point, they gave up Trevor Rogers. Now, look, Trevor Rogers is a piece of crap when they traded him. Sorry, but he was. And now he's out with a dislocated knee. He doesn't factor into the Orioles' plans right now and not for the foreseeable future of this season. They've had a lot of great starting pitchers. At what point are they going to get serious and keep a young starting pitcher and build around that young starting pitcher? Like they've got to be willing to make that trade. And what are you willing to give up? Because we already know that the Orioles aren't trying to trade Coby Mayo and Samuel Basallo. They're certainly not trying to trade Jordan Westburg. So at what point are the Marlins going to start taking themselves seriously? I don't know. I would love to have Sandy Alcantara. I think that they're banking on him. I think he's a big-time comeback player of the year candidate. I mean, he's only a couple of years removed from a Cy Young award. Alcantara is one when he's right. He's one of the top 5 pitchers in the game. Would love him. How much do you have to give up? And should the Marlins even be willing to give him up at this point? AJ, yes, the Lollipop Wars know all about it. Oh, he's referring to Zach's kids. That was too funny, and I totally get it. I had to miss a few days of work this week because my daughter was really, really sick and somebody had to be home to watch her. And my wife is taking off so much to watch her at times so that, thankfully, so I could go to the office and get some work in, that I couldn't ask her to do it again. I don't want her getting in trouble. So, yeah, I totally understand having to be dad first and foremost. Sagano looked great as expected. Well, yeah, he threw strikes. He walked somebody. I was actually shocked to see that he walked a batter in 2 innings. No strikeouts, which I don't need him to be a strikeout pitcher if he gets weak contact and he hits his spots, right? But no strikeouts. And again, he's not throwing his full arsenal. He's working on stuff right now. But I'm really excited to see what he can do this year. And people aren't talking about it. He could be a dark horse rookie of the year candidate. Just because he's 35 years old, do people forget that he's a rookie? He could be a dark horse rookie of the year candidate. I'm really excited to see what Sagano can do because, look, Greg Maddux won, and I'm not saying he's Greg Maddux, but Greg Maddux won 4 Cy Young awards in a row, and he didn't throw hard. He just knew how to pitch. Sagano knows how to pitch. The guy can manipulate a baseball with the best of them. Daniel Paul. What would be your opening day rotation at the moment? At the moment, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry with that opening rotation. It's going to be, I say, you give Grayson Rodriguez the ball on the opening day in Toronto. You say, look, we expect you to be an ace. We're going to treat you like one. Here's the ball on the opening day. Then it's Eflin. Then I'd go with Dean Kramer because even though Dean doesn't have great numbers, I think he's got a 4.89 career ERA against the Blue Jays. I've seen him the last few years have some solid success against the Blue Jays, especially 2022 or 2023. He was really, really good against the Blue Jays a couple of times down the stretch for the team. So I would have Kramer be my. So in Toronto, Grayson, Eflin, Kramer, and then I go Charlie Morton, the veteran, give him the ball for the home opener that Monday against Boston, then Sagano that following Wednesday. That's how my rotation would stack up. But again, Cade Povich, he could give the Orioles a big decision that they have to make if he continues to pitch the way he has. And again, it's early in spring training, but it's the fact that he's not walking guys. He's throwing 2/3 of his pitches for strikes right now. He's got 7 strikeouts. And look, he's starting and he's facing big league talent at the top of lineups when he's pitching, and he's looking really good. So again, another reason why I think maybe there could be a trade. Do you maybe trade Dean Kramer? Because they're not trading Grayson, they're not trading Eflin. They just signed Morton Sagano, so they're not trading them. Kramer's the guy that you make the trade with. That's the guy that you trade if you want to make room for Cade Povich in your starting rotation. They said that they're not going with a 6-man rotation. Otherwise, I'd say go 6-man rotation. And so that you have Povich as an option. It also helps you keep guys who have injury histories like Grayson and Eflin and Kramer. 6-man rotation helps ensure that they stay fresh and healthy. I still remember Jake Fox hitting 10 spring home runs for the Orioles. No, he made the team. He made the team out of spring training. He just wasn't any good. He hit 243 with 2 home runs that year, which 243 now somehow gets you. It got Santander. No, Santander hit 44 home runs. I get it, but he hit 231 or 237 this year. 243 now doesn't matter as long as you can hit the ball out of the ballpark. But he made the team out of spring training, Dan. He just he didn't stick around very long because they were like, oh, yeah, you got to do it in big league ballparks against big league pitching, and he couldn't do that. AJ, you answered my question. I was thinking Skeens for Gunnar straight up or low prospect with Gunnar for Skeens. The Pirates know they're not going to be able to re-sign Skeens. I think the Orioles have hopes that they can re-sign Gunnar, and I think that when you're talking to a fan base that watched you get basically Dean Kramer for Manny Machado should like that is the one thing that I'll never get over with this ball club is with this franchise is that they didn't do everything in their power to build around Manny Machado. Like the rebuild didn't have to happen. The rebuild did not have to happen. You could have built around Manny Machado and started this window that they are in now. You could have started this in 2017, 2016, but they chose to lowball him. I think that they scoffed at an extra $1 million a year. I think they from what I remember from Ken Rosenthal's article, they offered him like 8 years, $72 million. You wanted 8 years, $80 million, and they were like, no. I'll never get past that. Manny Machado is still one of my favorite players of all time, one of my favorite Orioles of all time. This franchise, if they let Manny walk out the door and then they let Gunnar walk out the door, and even if you trade him for Paul Skeens, I don't know how you justify that to your fan base. And then, okay, if you trade him and you trade him for Paul Skeens, and then you watch Paul Skeens walk out the door in free agency. I don't know. I don't want to think about it right now. Gunnar's here right now. The Orioles aren't trading him for Paul Skeens anytime at all, unless they're both 37 years old. I don't see it, but I don't even want to think about it. Gunnar is just so good, and to trade him even for Paul Skeens, I don't know that I would be able to handle it. I just don't want it to be like Machado, where Gunnar is a rental. We only get a number 5 starter in return because I don't think the Orioles will be able to keep him. I mean, look, they're going to have to beat everybody else in free agency, and what's that going to look like? Probably 12 years, $600 million. By the time Gunnar hits free agency in 4 or 5 years, you're looking at 12 years, $600 million, because he's going to be 27 years old when he hits free agency, and all those big time contracts. You basically are paying for what happens the first half of those contracts. So you're telling me 6 years of Gunnar Henderson producing at an elite level isn't worth $50 million a year? It's going to be 12 years, $600 million. That's basically where the negotiations are going to start with Gunnar Henderson. And I'm sorry. I think the Orioles have to do everything they can to give him what he wants. I absolutely do. Which combo, Deep Mamu, which combo will hit the most homers? O'Neill, Mountcastle, Holiday, Cowser, or Adley, Gunnar? I love this question. I think Gunnar's going to hit 40 on his own. I think Adley's going to hit about 25. We'll say 20. So you're probably getting 60, 65 home runs from Adley and Gunnar. O'Neill and Mountcastle, maybe 45, because Mountcastle's got to prove that he can hit more than 18 for the first time in 3 or 4 years. And Tyler O'Neill's got to prove that he can stay healthy. You could get 60 home runs out of those guys. You could get 35. And then Holiday and Cowser, I think you could get 45 home runs, maybe 50 out of those guys. So it's Adley and Gunnar. I think Adley and Gunnar. I just think that Gunnar's going to hit 40, 45 home runs, and Adley's going to hit 20 to 25. It's going to be Adley and Gunnar. What a great question. I love questions like that. Keep those coming. AJ, if Mayo can give us 5 good years like Rizzo gave the Cubs at first base, I will gladly take it. He's got to do it with the glove. The bat, I think, is going to come around at any point. I think the bat is going to come around at some point, and I think he's going to hit 30, 40 home runs at the big league level, which is going to be awesome. Can he play a solid defensive first base? I'm not a big Rizzo fan. I used to be a way bigger Rizzo fan than I am now, but that's just because I don't think he's been good for 5 years. But Mayo gives you 5 years of Rizzo in his prime. Yeah, that's a hell of a ball player. When are you going to have the heavyset bearded guy on again? He's always great on the show. I think his name is Dylan Atkinson, maybe. I asked Dylan to fill in a lot. When Zach can't do the show, I asked Dylan to fill in a lot. He's this is no slight to anybody else. I've been working with Dylan since 2019 on various podcasts, and he's really knowledgeable, and he's actually, I remember he used to be so nervous when we would do the payoff pitch for Fanimal Radio. And now he comes on, and I think being a dad has just really worked well for him. He's outgoing, he's fun, he's funny, and he just knows so much about the game. I love having Dylan on the show. Dylan's a dad before he's anything else. He's a dad and a husband before he's anything else. And so am I. My wife, graciously enough, allows me to do the show because she knows how much it means to me. Dylan doesn't have his own podcast. Dylan hasn't been doing this for 10, 15 years. He didn't try to make a career out of this like I did. So it's a little bit different. So he has a lot of family commitments. He's also got 2 kids who are older than my 1 daughter. We'll see how my wife feels about me doing these shows on the weekends when I have 2 kids and they're, 2 and 4, 3 and 5 years old. We'll see. But yeah, trust me, I try to get Dylan on the show as much as I can. He's a busy family man. He's not Peter Griffin. All right. No, but I'll let him know that you were asking about him, AJ, for sure. He'd love that. Daniel, Gunnar will get 600, 800 million. We won't pay that. We have so much PTSD from the Angelos ownership era here. I don't know that. Look, Mike Elias might not pay that. Mike Elias might not be here by the time Gunnar, and maybe he is. But you don't think Dave Rubenstein will pay that? I think that he will. I think to keep Gunnar Henderson. I mean, you're talking about a guy who watched some greats like Brooks Robinson and Cal Ripken, man the left side of the infield here in Baltimore. Grew up watching guys like that. I don't think that you can definitively say that David Rubenstein won't pay somebody like Gunnar. I think David Rubenstein knows how important a player like Gunnar is to this fan base and this franchise. Unless you find somebody that's just as good, and how are you going to find? It took them 5 years, 4 or 5 years to find Gunnar to be the next face of the franchise as far as like that kind of talent that Manny had. I don't want to think about it right now. Losing Manny Machado and losing Gunnar Henderson in a 10-year span, I'm just not ready for. I'm not ready to have that conversation. And then replying to Daniel Pitts, I agree. At some point, we have to stop the hopium and be realistic. Hopium, I like that. I'm going to say that the Orioles re-sign Gunnar in free agency, and I'll say it till they don't, because I want them to. I need them to. I can't watch Manny Machado and Gunnar Henderson spend the bulk of their careers in different cities. I can't do that. And this fan base shouldn't have to. So, and maybe by then there's a salary cap or a salary floor. I don't know, but like this, I don't know that I could withstand watching Manny Machado, 2 generational talents like Manny and Gunnar both leave in a 10-year span. I don't want to do it. I don't want to think about doing it. So that's the last comment for the show today. I want to thank Zach Moore for joining us. Sorry he had to get off a little early with the kiddos in the background, but thank you to him for joining the show. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we don't have a show. Thank you to all of our loyal viewers, listeners, fans. Without you, we